I know that some of you watching have seen at least one of these images. Whether it's from YouTube, Discord, TikTok, or some other social media platform, you've at least seen one of them. These images were made by an AI image generator, DALL-E Mini. Some of these images are just weird, like this image I'm showing on the screen right now. This image is supposed to be a photorealistic car, but it doesn't really look like a photorealistic car, obviously. And it also looks like it was trying to add a little watermark, like the watermark symbols you see on Getty Images. DeepDream was created by Google in July of 2015. It was made to detect faces, but it could also be used the other way around. And it was used exactly like that. It created nightmares upon nightmares upon nightmares. Fun fact! The original codename for DeepDream is literally called Inception. It used a CNN or convolutional neural network. It's a type of feed forward neural network, but I'm not actually going to get into that. Let's just say it's a little bit too advanced for my monkey brain. Here's a good question for you. Can you name anything in this image? Well, that image was made by a tool named Artbreeder, formerly known as Breeder. Artbreeder does exactly what the name implies. It gets two or more images and breeds them together, like this. Look at the image I just made using Artbreeder. This is what I think objects on Earth look like to extraterrestrial life. They just look wrong. Their brains barely make up of it. Artbreeder works by remixing images, also known as breeding. And I think it shows information that couldn't be comprehended beforehand, like translation layer of some sorts. Here's a little thing I found out. Pair an Artbreeder image with old AI music that had voice in it, and you get what an alien thinks of humans. Now, the only reason why I called this Frankenstein is because, well, you can type in any prompt you really wanted. It would almost be all on its own, and it would create really more chaos and barely comprehensible images. You can tell what they're supposed to be, but they're just too vague. See, DALL-E Mini was one of the first AI image generators out there that was readily available. It was created by OpenAI. You prompted with whatever you wanted, and they gave you something. It used deep learning methods to create the images. It's funny to see that GPT-3 was used to create the images. I did think that I would use something like GPT-2, since GPT-2 was prone to just not having any legible sentences, and DALL-E Mini was definitely not legible in any of the images it generated. And honestly, it feels like I'm in a dream when I look at any of these images. They're just so familiar, yet they're so uncanny and just unsettling. The last chapter. This is also the most hardest chapter in the video. The Caretaker. James Leyland Kirby went under the name as The Caretaker all the way from the 90s up until 2019, when it ended with his most popular album, Everywhere at the End of Time. Everywhere at the End of Time is a project that Ivan Seal and James Leyland Kirby made. Ivan Seal made the album covers, and James Leyland Kirby made the distortions of normal music from 1920s. Everywhere at the End of Time is a project about dementia and the unforgivingness of it. The stages start out warm and sweet. The stage description is, here we experience the first signs of memory loss. This stage is more like a beautiful daydream, the glory old age and recollection. The last
of the great days.
In this phase, the mind is softening the borders of memory. The music have a great sense of nostalgia, like you've heard them before, or you were really there to perceive them in real life. It's the feeling of a memory that's been photocopied so many times that it grows a sense of haze. You can just barely make out the instruments used in the songs. The warm static on top of the slowed music makes a song of comfort. But that comfort will not last for long, as stage 2 slowly approaches. Stage 1 cover art is a tube of some sort standing up. The reason why I mentioned this is due to you not knowing exactly what it could be. It could be a paper, or paper towels, or something else entirely. But the shape is still there. You can recognize what it's supposed to be, but you just cannot quite make it out. This can be compared to some of the good images of DALL-E Mini or other AI models. You can tell quite what it is, but you just can't at the same time. Stage 2 has an overall more sense of sadness compared to Stage 1. Stage 2 is the first sense that something is wrong with the patient. It has more audio static to it and is overall just more depressing. The stage description is,
The second stage is self-realization and awareness that something is wrong and a refusal to accept that. More effort is made to remember, so memories can be more long-form with a little bit more disorientation and quality. The overall personal mood is generally lower than the first stage, and at a point before confusion starts to set in.
this is the stage of heartbreaking clarity, the moment that the mind catches itself slipping and scrambles to find a handhold. The brain is working overtime, desperately trying to construct long-form memories and prove it still can. But the tape is degrading. The melodies of the past are still recognizable, but they are being weighed down by a creeping melodic static. It is the tragedy of knowing that you're going to be losing something precious while simultaneously refusing to accept the loss. The mood shifts from a hazy golden hour to an overcast afternoon. The details are still there, but the joy has been replaced by a quiet, solitary dread. The Stage 2 album cover is one of a wilted flower in a flower pot. The base of the flower pot is just unexplainable. It is showing the saddening feeling of realization that you will lose the most precious thing that you own, your memories. You're losing them like a mechanical hard drive that is slowly failing. I can compare this to the old AI models that have a slightly complex prompt, or when you ask for something normal and it has a little fluke. Or, mainly a bigger fluke, I should say. Stage 3 is the most confusing of the awareness stages, and the song titles perfectly reflect that, going from titles like
We don't have many days, my heart will stop in joy, what does it matter how my heart breaks, the way ahead feels lonely,
and it goes to
hidden sea buried deep, aching cavern without lucidity, burning despair does ache.
upon others. The Caretaker made sure that you were fully immersed even with the titles. Who knew? It went from being coherent to being barely coherent, and there's heavy echo with harsher loops and just generally a lot more distortion. It's no longer warm and friendly. It's showing the mind trying to remember the times, but it's just failing to do so in audio format. I feel like this stage is the most perfect in the entire album. It's a buffer between coherent and completely uncoherent. The description for the stage is,
Here we are presented with some of the last coherent memories before confusion fully rolls in and the gray mists form and fade away. Finest moments have been remembered, the musical flow in places are more confused and tangled. As we progress, some singular memories become disturbed, isolated, broken, and distant. These are the last embers of awareness before we enter the post-awareness stages.
the album cover is a object that is bursting. I like to think that the album cover is just a Stage 2's album cover, but it just got worse. It's showing that the mind is degrading and the objects are becoming harder and harder to make out. This correlates to some of the AI pictures it produced, like this image. It kind of looks like a classroom, but every face just looks off. Everything looks distorted, like you're looking at that one image from earlier. Can you name anything in this image? You can tell that something's on the board, but you just can't understand what it's supposed to be. You can't just see anything like it was supposed to. Everything looks wrong, distorted, smeared. Right as stage 4 starts, you're hit with a wave of discomfort and extreme isolation. Instead of it being one song the entire time, it's many in the same track, extending for at least 20 minutes at a time. The difference between the last song in stage 3 is so different compared to the first song in stage 4. You might think that you're in a different playlist, but no, you would be so naive if you thought that. The fact that this is still music to me just beats me. The track names change too, going from presumably the caretaker just saying stuff to just medical terms. Presumably because the caretaker's dementia got so bad to the point that whatever they say is just so incoherent and nonsensical. Stage 4's description is
Post-awareness stage 4 is where serenity and the ability to recall singular memories gives away to confusions and horror. It's the beginning of an eventual process where all memories become more fluid from entanglements, repetition, and rupture.
the stage 4 album cover is one of the shape of a woman. This is probably someone that the caretaker actually does know. It could be the caregiver or their wife. It kind of reminds me of a girl in a pearl earring. This reminds me of AI due to the overall nature of it. Because the image has weird color and it barely resembles a human. See, this looks like a cat-dog thing. Just look at this image. You can barely see a semblance of an eye, some fur, and a beak of some sorts. The prompts here was comfort. Stage 5 is completely incoherent. The sounds of songs that we've never heard before sound familiar here. Even though we don't have dementia, James Leland Kirby was able to get us to think that we've heard these songs in the album before. In stage 5, everything's a mess. Everything sounds distorted. Everything sounds wrong. Everything's uncomfortable. The description is
Post-awareness stage 5, confusion and horror. More extreme entanglements, repetition, and rupture can give way to calmer moments. The unfamiliar may sound and feel familiar. Time is often spent only in the moment before leading to isolation.
it is in a state of severe, terrifying disorientation where the very architecture of a cohesive thought is completely shattered. The genius and profound horror of the stage and how it weaponizes paranoia against the listener. You are bombarded with fractured, hallowing distortions and chaotic triangle of noises. Yet, your brain desperately tries to stitch these alien frequencies into a melody you feel you have heard before. Everything is painfully disorientated, fundamentally wrong, and significantly uncomfortable. It is the panic of looking for a familiar face in a mirror, only to find an unrecognizable void staring back. The Stage 5 album cover is something. It looks like something on a staircase. This is meant to show that no matter what it is, every object looks and feels distorted, but at the same time feels right, like you can make out some shapes. This can be compared to this AI-generated image. It looks like you're looking at legs on the ground, but not really. Everything looks distorted, but at the same time you can make out some of the objects. Stage 6. After all this time, we're here. The start of Stage 6 is completely different compared to the end. Stage 6 has completely isolated music, mostly static. It's so grumbled and gargled to the point of no return. It's horrifying, but yet so blissful. The names went from medical terms back to terms that resembled the starting stage's poetic titles from stages 1 to 3. Here are them in order. A confusion so thick you forget forgetting. A brutal bliss beyond this empty defeat. Long decline is over, and place in the world fades away. The horror of losing the self is over because the self is no longer to be afraid. The confusion is so absolute to the point the mind forgets it's even forgetting. It is the absolute end of the line. The quiet, devastating silence after a long, drawn-out storm. The description for the stage is
Post-awareness stage 6 is without a description.
this album cover cannot be compared to an AI image, but the only thing it can be compared to is the audio. I picked this image because it's just showing you what the audio sounds like. This AI image has no shapes that can even resemble anything you've ever seen. It's the beauty of this image. I'm playing R1 Place in the World Fades Away right now. The last song in the entire album. I'm playing a specific part of it. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want you to hear the last 6 minutes of the album. Everything has been climbing up to this part. It's the climax of Everywhere at the End of Time. It's a sign of terminal lucidity where the patient remembers one final burst from the brain lets them smile at their families before death, which is shown as a minute of silence in this song. I'm going to play the entire thing without any interruptions. Enjoy. Let's get a little bit more happier, shall we? The song is St. Luke Passion, Friends Past Reunited, a biblical song made by J.S. Bach. And personally, the Caretaker song you just heard is my favorite song, and yes, I'm being serious. The sample has not found yet, and I have been trying to find it for a long, long time. Anyways, have a good night, guys. I'll see you in the next one.